the Mountain West TV deal is going to be just fine. And I think a lot of people are trying to figure out what the values are and who's going to be involved. And I know it's shocking that we told you that there was going to be, I don't know, CBS was going to be involved in their deal. Everybody told us, you guys are wrong. CBS is now with the Pac-12. Again, having conversations yesterday and today. CBS is fully expected to be part of the Mountain West TV deal. But I was talking to sources in TV today who were telling me that ESPN is very firmly in conversations, and it is expected that ESPN will be part of the Mountain West TV contract that is going to be announced. Most people believe before the ESPN direct-to-consumer product launches, which I guess at this point is by the end of the month. I don't know. That seems to be up in the air in Bristol, but I don't think there's any way you slice it, Jake. This is very good news for the Mountain West, especially if they are, in fact, able to get a deal done with ESPN.
Yeah, I mean, just the same way that, the Pac-12, got all their praise for the deal that they wound up doing initially. I think the Mountain West deserves credit for this. I mean, the idea that you can, have a relationship with ESPN, you can still put your biggest brands in a place that everybody can get that content, I think is great. I mean, that's what football conferences are always trying to do. It's why ESPN has so many relationships in college football, because obviously we can all just pull out the old smartphone and turn it on, whether you have YouTube TV, whether it's just the ESPN app, like whatever it might be, you can find their product. And I think that, this sort of, this measuring contest Pac-12 fans want to have with everybody about, oh, well, we've got the best TV deal and the Mountain West sucks and the Mountain West is terrible. And I just think they're in two completely different situations. And I think Lori Navarez has been steadfast on this. She has said consistently that they will get their deal done in time. They're on pace. And so now to hear that ESPN is part of the conversation, I love that for them. I think that there's no way that can be turned into a negative talking point for the Mountain West.
Oh, I think people will find a way. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And one of the questions I've been trying to, find an answer to as I talk to people around the TV industry, is who's got value versus who doesn't have value. And I think one of the things that's very clear is there is no discernible difference when it comes to the value of the Mountain West TV deal versus the value of the Pac-12 TV deal. There's really no big span, and Pac-12 fans, and I think the Pac-12 conference on the whole would try to sell you that somehow the Pac-12 has exponentially or significantly more value in the TV landscape than the Mountain West has. And I'm simply here to tell you, nobody in television believes that. Nobody in television is operating on that level. It is very clear, I think, when it comes to these numbers, they're going to be very close. Who knows which one, the Mountain West or the Pac-12, ends up getting a larger deal. And frankly, when we get to the point where we're looking at the net versus the gross on these deals, again, I will continue to ask about the Pac-12. Who's paying the cost of production on Pac-12 TV deals? Because there's a lot of people in television who also believe that the Pac-12, mandating is probably a strong word, but the Pac-12 is very clearly wanting to be part of the production arm on their football broadcasts. And I am telling you that people like ESPN don't want that. If they're going to put Pac-12 football games on ESPN proper, they're going to want production control of those games. So it's conversations like that that are going to be very interesting. I think if you're the Mountain West, the idea that you could have your games on CBS Sports Network, and ESPN's direct-to-consumer app, I think is a massive win. I don't know how closely people follow the news media or the media of the media, the news of the media. Fox announced that they too are now finalizing their direct-to-consumer offering. I mean, you're going to have a ton of landscape and a lot of people who need content on stream. And I guess the question is, how much do consumers value that? Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to get these guys paid.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that the you know the matchups in the Mountain West, I think sometimes are good. A lot of the times they're obviously lower on the slate, and when you talk about like how many people are interested, like what the consumer sentiment would be. I mean, ultimately, I think there was a lot of consumer sentiment last year for several of those big games in the Mountain West coming down the stretch, because the reality is with the college football playoff, there's one spot up for grabs, and up until this point, obviously the Mountain West was the one in football competing, for those spots, obviously with Boise State. So I think the great part about it is the ease of access, but I also think the worst part about it is now we're in a place where, just like you said, I mean, everybody is coming out with an app, and our phones are
Yeah.
overloaded as consumers, and I think that that's a struggle. I mean, I know personally I struggle with that. Like, how many apps do I have to have on my phone? Like, how many different ways am I going to have to figure out how to program the TV just to get every game that I'm interested in? And so I like the ESPN, contingent for anybody partnering with them. It's what we said about BYU for years, man. Everyone said, "Oh, well, why does that matter? Why does that matter?" Because BYU draws 1 million people a game on average, So if the Mountain West is in a place where they can, at their level, put out good numbers and put out good matchups, this is a good partnership. But the reality is it all still comes back to where these two are going to go in court, and if it ever gets to court. I mean, who knows? Maybe
I
these
don't
two will
think it
settle.
does.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
mean,
don't think it
these,
does.
I mean, if the Mountain West can settle, and it's let's say it's 80%, let's say they get 80% of what it was supposed to be, you're going to be in a really solid position. And the Pac-12 is obviously on the other end of that. So I just think when I hear, hey, ESPN and the Mountain West are in talks to finalize something before, and I think this is important, like you said, before the DTC thing comes out, that's a big deal. That rollout of that product, anybody who's getting onto that right now is going to get massive push when they do that. So I'm glad to hear that they're shooting for that.
Well, and I think the way, before we get to the details of the deal, I mean, you look at ESPN's direct to consumer pricing. If we are at a place where we're getting, what is it supposed to be? I think 19.99 a month for the first year. And then you get package pricing, and you get a bundle, if you will, with Disney. Fox is offering you the same thing. Fox News, Fox News Nation that sometimes tells the truth.com. Like you get all of that kind of bundled together. But you look at where ESPN plans, looking at a text message that I got talking about how it'll be $299 annually. And according to people I talked to in television, they're expecting to have 50,000 live events in the first year, live sporting events on their ESPN direct to consumer app. And they are looking at bundling prices with Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN for $35.99 a month with ads. You can buy it ad-free for $45.99 a month. You're looking at a bundle discount of what could be $16.99 a month. If you take Disney Plus and Hulu, you can get a 1 year $16.99 a month. I mean, if you're a sports fan, it's going to be awfully difficult to say no to that. And frankly, I think when you really look at who we are as sports fans,
Mm-hmm.
ESPN has everything that we're all interested in. Big 12, ACC, SEC, the college football playoff. Obviously, the big miss there is the Big 10, but you're going to have some crossover there. If they add the Mountain West and the Pac-12, and hear me clearly, I fully expect the Pac-12 to be part of ESPN's direct to consumer as well. I think that's the big win. My guess is that both the Pac-12 and the Mountain West are going to end up on between 4 and 5. I think you're looking at a situation where you could pretty easily see a mix of, or a combination of, CBS and let's assume, because they have never steered me wrong, but let's assume my sources are correct. It's CBS, ESPN, and then you need a third arm there. Somebody like a TNT, somebody like a regular mainstream cable channel to distribute your games. Is that CBS Sports? For the Pac-12, would that continue to be the CW that would get the lion's share of your content? Like, these deals don't any longer have to be every game on ESPN. That's it. Like, that's the whole deal. It's not like that for secondary, frankly, G5 teams. You look at the Mountain West deal now, you're largely Fox and CBS Sports gets the majority of your work, right? And then you look at what this deal going forward is. We're in an age of streaming now, and you have to be part of the streaming ecosystem. I would not at all be surprised to see the Mountain West be on CBS, be on Fox, direct to consumer, whatever, and on ESPN. Like, I think those are the necessary evils of those deals. But make no mistake about it, I think all of this, what is this, trench warfare and spin and propaganda that the Mountain West is dead and they're done and the Pac-12 stole their TV deal. Well, I got news for you. Here we are on August 5th, and the Pac-12 still hasn't announced a complete media rights deal. And I don't know how you don't have concern over that when all the hype we heard was, oh yeah, our deal's done. Here's the CBS portion of it.
Yeah, and your commissioner's coming out saying that, you want a transformational partner, and you want all these things, and you've got JD Wicker and Wickerland talking about how the deal is going to be done in 5 minutes, and then it's been like 6 months. Like, it's really it's a thing of, the word that I've always used is posturing. I mean, that's what the Pac-12 has done that for years, man.
I would agree with that.
We're the best conference, and I agree. Pac-12 After Dark was iconic, bro. I mean, we had moment after moment, highlight after highlight with Pac-12 After Dark games in the late window. And there's a reason that was such a beloved situation. But unfortunately, this, posturing has been pervasive, from private jets and way over expensive, conference headquarters, to not doing deals that you feel like are below you. Like, it's a difficult thing to make money, stay in existence, be in existence for a long, long time when you operate that way. That's hard.
Yeah, I think this is a really critical moment in time for both these conferences. I think, obviously, we've talked about this ad nauseum, and I know that Gloria's in our pocket and she's paying us and we think she's hot, and all the ridiculous, insulting things that we hear about the Mountain West on a daily basis. But I will continue to tell you, all of the TV people that I speak to on a regular basis have nothing but glowing remarks for the Mountain West and the way they've done business. And I think Gloria Navarra has earned a lot of credit when she let her TV partners know before everybody else knew that these 5 members were leaving. I think that was a really important move, that she maintained open lines of communication to continue to build that relationship. And I think on the other side of that, you continue to see that the Pac-12 is not negotiating their own deal. The Pac-12 continues to try and push for this incredibly high revenue bar that's just impossible to meet. I mean, the Pac-12 really wants to push to $15 million a year, and it's just not in the marketplace. It does not exist in today's economics, especially with what we are seeing with the economy, what we are seeing with consumer sentiment, with what we are seeing people willing to pay for television, which is why I go back to this ESPN direct to consumer, because I'm telling you now, when that launches, I will be dropping YouTube TV in a second, because all I watch is essentially sports on ESPN. And I watch, obviously, the NFL Sunday Ticket. I don't need YouTube TV to get the Sunday Ticket. Obviously, I'm watching a lot of Big Ten football. I don't need YouTube TV to watch Big Ten football, right? So for me, it's one of these things where I think this deal all is predicated around who can bring the most and who brings the most eyeballs and the most value. And right now, I think there's no question that is the Mountain West, because they've got a structure in place. I don't believe, and maybe I'm wrong, obviously I'm not in the room, I don't believe that the Mountain West is pushing for some massive number per year. I think they are actually looking for a true partnership that gets them as much reach as possible for their universities, their brands, and their athletes. I think that's the way you have to do these deals, because anymore it's what and I'm trying to be gentle and calculated with my words, but it's what Pac-12 fans have not wanted to hear for years and years and years. It's $50 million per school per year. It is don't want to be on stream. It is we're the biggest and the baddest. What are you going to do about it? The problem is you're not the biggest and the baddest anymore. And for everything that the Mountain West is not brand-wise, because I will not sit here and pretend to believe that the Mountain West has better brands. I don't think there's any question that the new Pac-12 has the better football brands, which is really what matters. But it's not accidental that when these deals are getting done, the Mountain West is in a far better negotiating position simply because they're negotiating. They understand who they are and where they are. And I am not convinced, based on the conversations I'm having with people in television, that the Pac-12 has changed their tune at all from the days of back-of-the-envelope calculations. I am not at all convinced that the Pac-12, based on conversations I'm having with people at the highest levels of television, offers an exponentially more valuable product than the Mountain West does. Is it more valuable? Yeah, I think it's more valuable. But when we're talking about dollars and cents, I'm talking about the difference between, a $5 bill and four $1 bill. Like there's not some huge difference.
Back of the envelope calculation.
I've got 4 singles. You've got a $5 bill. There's 4 quarters between us, right? It's not some huge thing. And I wish I had pulled a better analogy, but it's not some huge span between the Mountain West and the Pac-12.
Well,
the Pac-12 is slightly more valuable.
But I think that span is a great way to put it, because when it comes to value, I agree that just on their face, like conference for conference, yeah, I mean, they're pretty similar. There's not a big span, but I mean, I think we can all agree, chat included, that we all know those people in life who are a pain in the ass. And the Pac-12 has been nothing but a pain in the ass for TV partners. And I think that's the struggle, is that, okay, well, hey, and I'll even go with Pac-12 fan. Let's just do an experiment. Hey, the Mountain West is slightly less valuable than the Pac-12, slightly less valuable.
Yeah.
But they're way easier to work with. They're level. They are logical. Their asks are not out of this world crazy. That has value. That has real tangible value. I can tell you, again, like we told you repeatedly on this show, ESPN's agreements are pretty much boilerplate. It comes down to the relationship and what you're asking for and what ESPN wants. So the idea that somehow, again, as you always say, like the Pac-12 wants to have control over their broadcast and wants to have all these things mixed in. You're being a pain in the ass. Take the check and let ESPN do what it does. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I don't think either one of these conferences is getting a groundbreaking amount of money. I think they'll be very similar deals, because as I've told you for 6-8, and really, geez Louise, it is August 5th, for 12 weeks now, essentially for the last 3 months, we've been telling you that the Pac-12 is struggling to find a number to placate its new membership. That's the single biggest issue. My belief is, in talking to people close to the situation, my belief is one of the main reasons that you saw the exiting members of the Mountain West sit tight and not give their notice up until the very last hour was because they wanted to stall the Mountain West's ability to negotiate a new TV deal for 2026. I think that was one of the absolute main reasons those exiting 5 members stood there and waited, because the Pac-12, and we all remember the infamous J.D. Wicker, hey, we're going to have a deal done by the end of March. Well, here we are in August, and you still don't have a deal done. And it's
absolutely
remarkable.
Nothing.
Yeah, it's remarkable to me that's the narrative that continues. But it's because you don't see the Mountain West making that mistake. The Mountain West is operating very quietly. And I know, frankly, you guys won't believe me, but I know people in the Pac-12 offices watch this show. We know it. We talk to you guys. We see you. We hear you. My advice to you is to be quiet, to tell guys like J.D. Wicker, your athletic directors, your presidents, nobody's talking about it. If it's not Teresa Gould, nobody's talking about it. That's the way that it should be. You look at how the Mountain West handled their football media days. I thought they handled it perfectly. I thought Gloria Navarez answered every question about a new media deal perfectly. It's coming. We'll have an announcement for you. But we're not going to get out over our skis and talk about how we're going to have a transformative partnership and we're going to no, dude. Tell us when you get it. Hey, look at this deal where we're the Pac-12. We just got our new media rights deal. Look how transformative it is. And here's why, A, B, and C, right? That's what the Pac-12 should be doing. Not sitting on front office sports talking about how you need a transformative partnership. And then what do? You immediately go out and you say in that front office sports thing, well, we can't have a deal where they just cut us a check and we broadcast games. And then what did you immediately do? You turned around and cut a deal where they cut you a check and you broadcast the games.
And my only question is, in a time when you need money, why not? Why not? Take the money. Like, broadcast your game, take the money. It's not that difficult. Like, that, I feel like it's the, it was the old adage on the show, like, when the Pac-12 was melting down, people would always say, oh, well, the Pac-12, they're all uppity and they just care about the quality of the pencil they're sharpening in that conference. Like,
yeah.
Like it's that sort of, that panache, if you will, that I just think rubs people the wrong way. Like, it would be different if the Pac-12 was the only conference that ESPN had to work with. But that's not the case. And I just think it's a tale of two conferences who we all agree should have merged and they couldn't figure it out. And now we're in a place where it's like, all right, now we got to say who's more valuable and who's got this and who's got that and who's better and who's worse.
Yeah.
And the reality is, what's going to decide it? Well, what you do on the football field and the basketball court, as usual. I mean, hell, if the Mountain West gets a great TV deal by their standard, but then they have an awful athletic season, I mean, what's the narrative going to be then? Like, that's what the truth in college sports is right now.
Yeah, we'll see. I think if either one of these conferences gets anywhere north of $8 million, they should be jumping up and down and celebrating, because I think that those are the numbers I continue to hear. And I just look at this mediation and these lawsuits and the inability to come together in mediation, the inability of these 5 exiting members to, and that's the funny thing. I was talking to like a really powerful guy, somebody that sits at top of a major media company, who said, I don't understand what these schools are doing besides keeping lawyers in business. Like, this idea, and it's brilliant branding by the Mountain West. They put it out in a statement last week, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. This idea that you wrote these bylaws and you built these exit fees into your bylaws, and then you reinforce them when San Diego State tried to do what they did. And now that you're the ones leaving, you don't want to pay them. It's a brilliant talking point. And none of the 5 exiting members want to talk about it. None of them will address it publicly. And I think that's the one. The poaching fee, have at it. It's going to come down to good faith and contract law. Have at it. The bottom line is, the Pac-12 has got to find a way to stop paying lawyers, because if you get $50 million in your TV deal and half of that goes to a lawyer, you only got $25 million in your TV deal.
Yeah.
And you can spin it, and you can, like if you're a conference, if you're a G6 conference right now, you look at the governance that came out today that was approved by the D1 Council. You have no voice in the highest levels of college football. You have zero voice in what happens. Essentially, what the Power 4 conferences want, the Power 4 conferences are going to get. You have, if you're the Pac-12, you can continue to sell yourself, as one of the 5 conferences. You're not. You can continue to sell yourself as anything you want. The bottom line is, you're a G6 conference now, and that is what it is. You do not have a voice in the future of the championship of college football. So you need to operate in a way that makes you the single most attractive G6 conference. End of story. That should be everything you do. Reputation, communication, execution, branding, relationship building on the field, on the court, in the pool, on the golf course. Every competition has to be top notch, executed at the highest level. But yet, we still see that you announce a CBS deal, and I'm asking Pac-12 fans, because seemingly we always hear about this, but why did you announce that CBS deal? We talked about this. I asked this exact question when it happened. Why did you announce the CBS deal when you did?
Because you needed a win. That's the only reason. You needed to fabricate a win.
That's the only thing I can think of. That's it.
Because like you said, I mean, it's not like that's some incredible deal, right? I mean, it's essentially the deal you did that, this coming year, and then, then you're going to do it again. So like, the conference continues to do this thing where it's like the old adage in life. You never want to count your money until it's actually been deposited into your account, right? You never want to be like, oh, well, hey man, I got this deal closing, but yeah, it's going to have to wait till next month. So, I'm still going to go buy the car, or buy this or buy that, because that money's coming in. I feel like that's how the Pac-12 operates. Like, yeah, we're good. We're good. We're going to get this big ass TV deal. We're going to be $10 million a year per school, and we're going to be flush, and never mind this lawsuit, and never mind the lawsuit that Boise State threatened over the GCU edition, right? Like, they just want to say, hey, we're this great conference, and not have any thought to reality. And that's why I say I love this concept of the span between the two, because in literal terms, there's not a big span, but in figurative terms, and hey, like, are you excited to talk to the Pac-12? How is the Pac-12 viewed? Like, who would want to do business with the Pac-12? That's not good, man. And it just continues to go that way.
I think the Pac-12 has a lot of things going for it. You have a really good football branch. You have some really good administrators. Scott Barnes at Oregon State continues to be a guy that I think is one of the real smart dudes in the room, and it gives me hope that the Pac-12 can bring a media rights deal in that will help them. I mean, I don't think any media rights deal that the Pac-12 does is going to impact their bottom line in the first 2 years. I just think they have so many expenses from starting. I mean, because you have to understand, this is a brand new company that they're launching. Like, this is not just a reload. This is a brand new company. And it's not like you're bringing in a bunch of big budgets. You're not bringing in again, everybody always points to Stanford and Cal. Like, well, they're in the ACC and they're not coming, right? You're talking about smaller budgets. Even Oregon State and Washington State, you look at the challenges that Washington State athletics is going to face here over the next 3 years. They have a faculty and staff that does not have an appetite to put a lot of money into sports. They're in a situation where I think it's going to be tough for Washington State to compete at the top of the new Pac-12. I would be really surprised if Oregon State was not the dominant brand in that conference, football and otherwise. But you look at the challenges financially that come with trying to create a brand new company and just hit the ground running. That doesn't exist in college sports. And whether it is teams jumping, Utah's a great example of it, jumping from the Mountain West to the Pac-12, that road took a long time. And unfortunately, it was only at the end that they won back-to-back championships and went to the Rose Bowl. But it's that kind of climb that now an entire conference is going to have to battle. And they just continue to dump money into legal fees. And that's why I say, if you're a fan of any of these exiting 5 members, look at San Diego State. Do you think San Diego State University is flush with cash?
There's no way.
There's no way. You look at the economics of doing business right now and taxes in California. You look at the revenue that is not coming in to San Diego State, to Fresno State. You look at those California state athletic institutions, they already have tight budgets, right? So you just know the first 3 years, in my opinion, and really it's not my opinion, from people I've talked to around the situation, like the first 3 years is not going to be an equity play for these new members. Like this reimagined Pac-12, I think they'll be fine in basketball. It takes significantly more money to operate in football. Like, I mean, if you look at the budget of most G5s, and I don't know, what would be an average budget in the Mountain West or the Pac-12 for basketball? Probably $4 to $6 million.
Yeah,
And
probably.
maybe your biggest programs, maybe the GCUs and the Gonzagas are spending $7, $8, $9 million. But even that's a stretch in this day and age. Like, I would imagine that GCU spends somewhere around $7 to $8 million. I would imagine somebody like Gonzaga probably is north of that, but below 10 million. Like, and you look at the new rulings that came out. If you go to the NCAA, if you go to the Final Four now, and you used to, that would be where the payday ended. Now you go to the championship round and you continue to get paid now. Both institutions that play for the championship get a TV share, and then the team that wins the NCAA tournament gets an extra share. Like, do you think that's really important to people like the Mountain West, who has put teams into this tournament regularly? You think the San Diego States of the world, you think the UNLVs of the world, the Gonzagas of the world, the GCUs of the world, you think that excites them a little bit? I would think it does.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean,
Like,
you look at, I mean, just to put this into perspective of what you're saying, like, you look at annual revenue, the revenue for schools came out for 24-25, and you look at the projected for 25-26, and the projection for Boise State is 24.3 million in total revenue, and the rev share on that from the House settlement, the 22%, is 5.3 million. So just right there, you went from your overall number being 24 and some change down to the high teens, and we haven't even talked about all the other things you have to pay for. So I just hope people understand that when you see the biggest of the big in college athletics doing 100 million, 200 million, like these wild numbers like Ohio State and Texas, the usual suspects, like that's not the norm. That's the
not at all.
1%ers of the situation thriving and doing what they do. And the norm is more 24.3 million, and you're trying to just be above water. Like,
and I
that's
think
the truth.
If you look at somebody like Boise State, I mean, that can't. Are they a $75 million budget? They're probably far below that. I mean, you look at Boise, they're probably $50-60 million in total athletic budget, right? I mean, you start looking at, and I guess I could look it up, but you look at who would have the largest budget in the Pac-12. It's not going to be Washington State. My guess it'd be Oregon State.
Probably.
Oregon State or San Diego State, Oregon State probably are the closest.
I mean, honestly,
I would
probably
think,
Oregon State, just because of it, all jokes aside. I mean, you look at, if you go back before the Pac-12 melted down, the investment into research, obviously they had money to do that. They had put money together to do that. So they got that taken care of. Now they're in a really good place. Obviously you lose your head coach in football. You got to replace him. So like, you've had a couple of costs here, but I would agree that Oregon State, just thinking about it, really should be the athletic department in that conference that would be at the top. Next,
I mean, I would have to think Oregon State, or I doubt it's UNLV, but I mean, those schools have got to be close to $90 million, between 90 and $100 million, I would think, in budgets. And you look at what that means for basketball, and you start asking yourself, okay, well, if we're spending, if we're spending at the G5 level, if we're spending anywhere between 15 and $40 million on football, like what are we going to spend on basketball? Is Gonzaga going to spend $15 million on basketball in Pac-12? I would highly doubt that. I mean, do you understand how much money $15 million is for basketball? And you start looking at somebody like think of that the new Pac-12 is Utah State. Is Utah State going to spend $10 million on basketball?
No.
Not a goddamn
chance.
They probably don't spend half that. They probably spend between $4 and $5 million on basketball at Utah State. And I mean, we can keep going with that, but I just think
Utah State's revenue is 12.3.
So
like,
you're not spending half. Well, you might be spending half that on basketball, I guess. I mean, if you look at,
but you're not double digits on basketball. You're nowhere near that.
no, I think you would be
Yeah.
probably $4 to $5 million.
Yeah.
But if you look at who are the members of this kind of San Diego State in basketball, an elite basketball program, $8 million, nine maybe. I mean, I think Gonzaga is probably the only double-digit basketball spender in that league. And I would have to think that a San Diego State's probably near the top of that list, 8 to 9 million. You look at somebody like a Washington State. Washington State's probably $4 million, $5 million. Colorado State on basketball Colorado State spends a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw their number today was $35 million a year on football. For a budget, I think their number was $35 million. I was reading in one of the Denver sports writers was talking about the rivalry between Colorado State and Colorado and how much more money Colorado spends. And in that article, I think I read that Colorado State spends like $35 million on football. So if we think about what's their basketball, my guess is they would be top half between 5 and 6 million. That's the kind of money we're talking about. Right. So if you go to the Mountain West, and who's in the new Mountain West? Your UTEPs of the world. UTEP is probably the least well-heeled, they have the least money. I would think UTEP's $1.5 million. Maybe if UTEP was spending $2 million on basketball, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
If UTEP is spending $6 million on football, I'd be shocked. I mean, I would have to think San Jose State would probably be towards the bottom of that list. San Jose State, they can't spend $2 million on basketball. There's no way. And if in football, I would think that's really tough.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's not a ton of money to be going around.
There's not.
That's the thing that I think. Again, I'm not trying to be a Pac-12 fan hater, but this is the things that I bring up that I think Pac-12 fan just doesn't want to talk about, which is like, dude, like there's not a lot of money to go around, generally speaking, because you're a G6 conference now.
The money's tough,
it's
man.
not like you've got some stockpile of money hidden away in your piggy bank for the conference.
That's right.
And you're blowing up with that's not the scenario here. And that's where,
I agree.
Bro, that's where I say, like, where are they getting the money to be able to just keep putting the foot on the pedal with litigation? That's what I truly don't get.
And here's a legitimate question. I ask you this legitimately. Do the exiting members of the Mountain West Conference do all they can do to make the NCAA tournament this year? Let that sink in. And why do I ask that? Why do I broach that point? Not to be a red ass, but I am. Well, today a pink ass. But
it would be a red ass move by them if they did what you're about to explain.
But why do I ask that? Because those tournament shares stay in the conference. They don't move with the club. So my guess is that's at least, I know for a fact it's been talked about. I don't believe that they would do it. I think it'd be very difficult to go to your athletic director and your basketball coaches and say, well, we're trying to get a knuckle deep on the Mountain West here. I don't think you would do it. I really don't, because
at some point the student athlete experience has to matter.
Isn't that why? But isn't that why they're all pissed that GCU joined that league this year? Because that's a bigger basketball budget. Right? If you look at GCU, and I have no idea what they spend. I don't even know if it's public or not because they're a Catholic university. I have to think that they are $7 to $8 million in basketball. And I believe I know they'll be the biggest basketball budget in that league. I mean, isn't that what's tweaking Boise? That, oh, hey, we're going to screw them out of tournament shares. In comes GCU. Now, is GCU making a Final Four run or probably not?
GCU in 2022, so 3 years ago, reported $6.8 million in expenses for the basketball program. So
So if that's 20, what did you say that year was?
22.
So in 2025, I have to think, and actually it would be 2026 because of the turn of the calendar. I have to think they're $7 to $8 million
Yeah,
because those MFers in Phoenix, let me tell you something.
it's coming up.
Those folks do not like losing basketball games ever. And I think GCU is incredibly competitive. But again, I am guessing off the top of my head, but that's my thought on to why they're so pissed off that GCU got in the league early because of tournament shares and the money that is associated with that. And if I am Boise State, yeah, I'm probably it's ridiculous to think you would spend another penny on a lawyer. It's ridiculous you would use any portion of your retainer to have a lawyer send a cease and desist letter even over GCU joining this conference early. But my guess is they wanted to huff and puff and we're going to sue your ass, Gloria.
Come on.
Because you're upset that that's a basketball solution.
You're
for the Mountain
upset
West. There's
that
no
they
doubt.
came up with a better solution than you could affix to hold them down. Right? I mean, that
Yeah.
because that's what it. I mean, you're totally right. I mean, that's what it is. Like, you're upset that they went and pulled the trigger on that move, even though in the bylaws it says they're allowed to do that. And then to double down on that, if tomorrow it came out that, oh, well, the Pac-12 schools scandal, the Pac-12 schools intentionally didn't go to the tournament to screw the Mountain West as they had departed the Pac-12. Like,
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised, bro. Like,
Yeah.
I do think, though, there's this piece of it where it's like at some point the pettiness has to stop when you start thinking about student experience and like, these kids aren't here forever. You guys are. Like,
Yeah.
there's a difference. So I don't know, man. I still maintain, and I know we're well past it and can't put the cart in front of the horse and all that or whatever. Like, these two should have merged and they should have done the right thing, but they didn't. And it goes back to this pride piece that the Pac-12 just won't get the hell out of the way and say, yeah, you know what? We did make a mistake in our old incarnation. We should have taken the deal. We should have taken 35. Dude, if they took 35 a year, they would have been in a beautiful position right now.
Yeah,
And we wouldn't even be talking about this.
Oh, the Pac-12 is a tragedy. The Pac-12 is one of the great tragedies in the history of sports in this country. It just never had to happen. But again, I think still the best example of this is look what's going on in the ACC. Look at how they tried to go to court and there was a gotcha jackpot moment with ESPN, never came to fruition. It's that same situation. And I actually think those in the ACC that stuck it out are going to be well rewarded for it, as we've been talking about with Carolina and Duke and Miami. And I think they're going to be well rewarded for it. But it's the mistake that you continue to see with the Pac-12. It didn't have to happen the first time. They shouldn't be paying lawyers the second time. And we'll see.